Hey everyone, welcome to the first installment of Philosophy Club. I want to provide you all with a quick rundown of some philosophical ideas and principles as a sort of introduction to philosophy video. But first, we need to understand what philosophy is. Philosophy as a word contains two root words. Philo, meaning love, and Sophia, meaning knowledge or wisdom. Put together into the compound word, philosophia or philosophy literally means the love of wisdom. As an academic discipline, philosophy deals with the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence. Before we go any further, though, we need to first discuss a concept or concepts generally referred to as first principles. These are ideas and schools of thought upon which philosophical propositions are founded upon and examined. Similar to physical construction, one needs to first build a foundation before one stands walls. And similarly, one needs to stand walls before erecting a roof. So, let's start with the foundation. First principles are best explained through an analogy. Plato is renowned partially for his allegories, for instance. Analogies afford listeners with a sense of embodiment with which to interact with ideas, so these concepts are better understood as more than mere letters on a screen or words spoken through a microphone. Our analogy begins thusly. You awake one day to find yourself in a strange place. You have no recollection of the night before, and thus no familiarity whatsoever with your current location, nor its relationship to any other known location. All you can immediately see is that you appear to be in some sort of labyrinth. Before you can do anything, there are three fundamental questions that need answered. Where are you? How can you know? And, informed by your previous answers to the prior two questions, what should you do? These are our first principles. Let's examine these questions with some more detail. First question, where am I? Is there a roof over you? What are the labyrinth walls made of? Is the ground dirt, grass, gravel? Are there walkways? These questions will fall under the philosophical concept of metaphysics. While physics seeks to describe reality, metaphysics attempts to examine the deeper nature of reality. Philosophers use metaphysics to explore being, time, relations, and causality, just to name a few concepts. While science and traditional physics could help us understand the chemical composition of the soil under our feet, or the force of gravity keeping our feet on that soil, metaphysics takes these observations a step further. Are the labyrinth walls made of stone or shrubs? The nature of the walls determines the range of possibility of interactions with those objects. You could scale a stone wall to get a better view of the labyrinth, for example, but you could not simply run through the stones. Likewise, you would most likely be unable to scale a brush wall, but forcing your way through the shrubs is much more feasible. Let's take this a step further. You, as the listener of this, can visualize our hypothetical labyrinth. Does that mean this analogy has the potential to be real? Is the potential of existence a necessary precondition for something to exist? These are metaphysical questions. Back to our labyrinth. Question number 2. How can I know? Our second fundamental question deals with theories of knowledge, what philosophers call epistemology. Epistemology is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. One way you could determine that you were in a labyrinth is by experiencing your surroundings. You can touch the ground to determine its substance. You could have your way blocked by stone walls. You could attempt to force your way through a brush wall. You could walk a few paths with dead ends to determine that the pathways are indeed labyrinthine. This is what cognitive scientists and psychologists call experiential knowledge. Again, let's take this a step further. Say I walk past a clock. that clock could be displaying 10:30. My experience with the clock suggests one way I could know the current time. Then, say I walked past another clock displaying 4:15, and I realized the first clock was inoperable. My experience with the first clock is now invalidated. Say the second clock is functioning properly, yet has been improperly set. Now how am I to know the time? I could declare a random time, then seek experiences to either validate or invalidate my proposition. This is what is called propositional knowing. In general, there are also participatory knowing and procedural knowing, as well as experiential knowing and propositional knowing. We still have one final question to ask of our analogy, though, so let's return to our labyrinth. What should I do now? Once we have a basic understanding of where we are and how we know that, it stands to reason that our next step is to use the information to determine the valence of any consecutive actions. This is called the study of ethics. Should you value exiting the labyrinth over accepting the labyrinth as your new home? If so, why should you value things that way? If we assume that successfully navigating your way through the labyrinth is valuable, then that changes the parameters of good and bad, just and unjust behaviors. Philosophers of ethics would ask such questions as, what does it mean to be good? What is goodness? What separates justice from injustice? And what does it mean to live a good life? Just to name a few. Taking it a step further, when might someone be justified in wielding authority over another? Or, as Niccolo Machiavelli famously asked, is it better to be feared or loved? Well, that's all I have for today. I hope this helps lay a decent foundation with which we can continue our exploration of philosophy. Tune in next time for another installment of Philosophy Club.